Welcome everybody. I can see a lot of familiar names. Yeah, it's really good to have you here, and welcome, Anthony. It's really nice to have you here with us. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
What's the weather like in the UK?
It's raining a lot. Yeah, we're line checking a gig over at +4, so drove the truck over here this morning and very wet.
Good that it's not snowing. When it snows in UK, then you're gone.
Everything stops.
Yeah. All right, so we are here to discuss Spiritland's OB truck. Anthony happened to be in the truck right now, so it's really nice. You can see that it's really there. Yeah, what we're gonna do today, we're gonna start with a brief introduction to both companies, to BroaMan, what we do more or less, then Spiritland, what you do. Then we're going to focus on our solution that you've been using for quite some time now. Later on, once we finish, there are a lot of you, maybe you have some questions, hopefully you do. If you have questions, then there is Q&A on the bottom of the screen. You can just type questions in. Starting with BroaMan, just very quickly, very shortly. I see a lot of names. Most of you know what we do. Most of you are using our systems. Of course, we will be talking about very, very specific system. However, just a brief introduction what BroaMan is. You can consider BroaMan as the platform to transport pretty much everything. So video, audio, control, some data, some IP, some comms, as you will see later on. Everything on fiber. And we can do it as point-to-point, or we can do more advanced systems. We use three main technology blocks like conversion, then we multiplex signals together to have multiple protocols on same fiber. And we also do routing. More information, of course, can be found on our website. Today, we will focus on very, very specific system that Anthony has with him in his OB. So, Anthony, could you tell us a little bit about the company and about yourself, your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So the company was formed by myself and another co-founding director, Gareth, my business partner. We both worked at the BBC for, I did 10 years. He was more like 15. And we left 3 years ago when we met the Spiritland group. So for those of you who aren't aware of Spiritland.com, they own listening bars around London. So they have one in King's Cross and one in Festival Hall. And essentially they just have very expensive hi-fis, and they play an album of the day every day. They're interested in audio quality. It seemed a good fit, and they had a little speech-based podcast studio within their King's Cross venue. We met them, and they didn't have anyone to operate that, and so we formed Spiritland Productions. We left the BBC, and then we did that for 6 months, and it gave us access to not only the contacts that they all had as directors, but also their line of investors. And that led us down the path to create a truck. And when we pitched the idea to the other directors in the company and the Spiritland investors, the only clause that was put on it was that it had to be the best. And so we drew up plans after plans until we came up with a design for this one. And this was all based on our experience of Glastonbury, Reading Festival, big multi-band music festivals. It was made to meet that market, and then we knew that everything else would kind of fall into place past that.
And your customers are broadcast stations, TV stations,
or so we both used to work in radio, but used to do festivals and concerts for TV and radio. So we continued to work for the BBC as an external supplier. So we have a job on Monday and Tuesday, which is 12 of the West End musicals coming into the Palladium, recording one song each, and that's for BBC TV. and then lots of independents as well. So quite varied work. And then we have all of the podcast stuff and all the remote work that we're having to do because of coronavirus going on as well in the background when the truck's not out and about.
Yeah, we were talking before it started that you're quite lucky in this situation.
It's quite a diverse portfolio, and we were very lucky in that we did a lot of work for a company called Melody VR in the early stages of COVID-19. They did a lot of gigs. They did Wireless Festival, virtual reality at Alexandra Palace, and then we moved to Brixton with them, and we did another 7 or 8 gigs there as well. So we had expected when this all happened that the truck would just sit in the garage, but we've been quite lucky.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. And you do mainly audio, right?
Yeah, so we wanted to build a truck that was more capable in terms of vision than ones we had worked in previously. We worked across all of the BBC fleets and various external trucks. And one thing we wanted to get right with this was that vision had to be easy and comms had to be easy so that we could focus on, the important part for us, the audio. So we somewhat, maybe in some people's eyes, overspec the comms and the video side, but it does mean that it's very flexible for those kind of gigs. So on Monday and Tuesday, we have a basic ATEM vision mixer in here, and we'll be recording the main TV output, but also a conductor cam picture in picture, which we're then going to send off to remote artists to send their vocals back for remix. So little things like that is nice to be able to offer production companies.
Right. Cool. Okay. So how did it all happen that you ended up with BroaMan system?
Well, we went through 3 designs of this truck with different desk manufacturers, and of course you start with the desk manufacturer and what capabilities you need, and that dictates your transport system somewhat. And actually, it wasn't until we went
yes and no.
Yes and no, yeah. But we went to see SSL. We listened to that desk, and we were just blown away with how good it sounded. And then, of course, that then dictated that the whole truck would be a Dante backbone. So at that point, we decided we wouldn't try and make it an analog AES MADI truck with just a Dante desk at the front. We'd fully embrace the technology. And I was actually put in contact with you guys from an old contact from BBC Scotland, and they run a Digico truck. So coming back to what you were saying about it not being maybe manufacturer specific, they run a Digico truck, HMA fibers on that, but they use various boxes of yours.
Yeah, they do have Mux 22 as far as I remember.
Mux 22, that's it, yes. And they use that for their comms and for some analog line in, line out, which is not part of the Digico infrastructure.
And you were originally looking at Mux 22 or something similar, right?
Yeah, that was the first guys with Digico. But then, we've ended up with the Custom 48 due to the nature of this truck now and the advantages that offers us in a number of paths.
Yeah, so it's, well, Mux 22, it does offer videos and some audio on the same device, but it's mainly like analog audio or MADI. And MADI was, well, it was needed for your system, but as far as I understand, Dante was like the main audio platform, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So what other signals you wanted to run?
So our basic requirement from the stage was to be able to take near unlimited preamps, so a stack of SSL stage boxes, and then everything was designed with 256 channels at 96k in mind, so that we effectively then ended up with quite a lot of MADIs being required from stage. So we spec'd 8 of those in the end. 2 Vision either way, obviously our primary and our secondary Dante networks, and then a third network which we're carrying internet AES67 for comms, and various control data on that third network.
Right, and you knew from the beginning that it's gonna be fiber, like the stagebox to truck connection. You decided on fiber, right?
We wanted it to be fiber, mainly so that we were optically isolated from PA companies, having worked on stages where the OB is cabled in with analog. Over the years, broadcasters have got a bit of a bad reputation with PA companies for causing noise on splits and whatever else. Obviously, with the advent of active splits, that goes away a bit, but to be optically isolated, it really is the best option for us.
Okay, and yeah, we can see in the background some pictures of the truck, and it's really beautifully done. I saw it like last year IBC, I think it was on megahertz stand.
Yeah.
So this brings another question: who built it and who spec'd it, who designed it?
So I did the technical design along with obviously input from people such as yourself and SSL, and then we had a Spectra specialist engineering and also Megahertz as our systems integrator who pulled the whole project together. So we found a chassis cab truck. This is based on an 18-ton Mercedes Antos. The box was then custom built on that by Spectra to Megahertz designs. And then the interior design was done by one of our other directors, Patrick, who designs all of the Spiritland venues. So the interior of this truck looks almost identical to our podcast studio and other parts of the King's Cross and Festival Hall venues.
Yeah, I don't have the picture with this table of podcast, but yeah, it is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and it took around like 1 year from the initial idea.
From the idea and the approval of funding to putting it on its first gig was almost exactly 12 months. And we rolled it out of the factory. We did 2 days of testing, and then it did a gig called Cardiff Singer of the World live on BBC Wales TV.
Okay.
And everything worked perfectly.
All right. Good. So next part of this is just to give you a little bit insights of what is happening with the box that you have like right next to you. It is always on, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you use it for every gig?
Absolutely. The only time, so almost everything goes through that. The only time we don't put something through it is if a mic box sits remote from our kind of main stack of mic boxes. So we have a couple of separate fiber points, which are just Dante to a stage box and back with no other facilities.
Okay.
But as you say, as soon as the truck is turned on, that's on, and we don't have to do anything with it. It's a, to us, it's an invisible transport device, which is,
yeah, well,
which is ideal for our needs.
This is exactly why we created it and how we created it. We created the device that is just seamlessly sitting there, but is carrying pretty much everything. If you look at the front panel, there are a lot of LEDs that inform you about the status of the device. The interesting part is always on the back. On the back, you've got a lot of connectivity. As you see the bottom row, here you've got 12 SDIs. Your setup was 6 in, 6 out, and every single port is 3G SDI. And then on top, there are 6 SFPs. SFP, this is the interesting part because this makes the box really, really flexible. What you can do, you've got just SFP slots, SFP cages, and you can put in any SFP you like. So this can be either fiber or this can be Cat5. as far as I remember, all of your ports are fiber, right?
One of ours is a CWDN Cat5, which carries our MISC AES67 network, right?
Possibly. No, now I'm lost. I thought
Yeah.
everything is fiber because you have switches with fiber
Ah,
ports,
yeah. Of course,
as
it's on
far
for
as I
Cisco. That's a
remember.
multi-mode. Yeah.
But yeah, both options are available and both options are possible. Anyway, all of those signals, they are transported over two duplex cables. So there is one box sitting at the OB end, right next to Antony, and there is one box built in the stage box with exactly the same configuration. So when you have two inputs here, they would go to two outputs on the other side. Additionally, here there are some more fiber tunnels, and those fiber tunnels, they carry also some data, I think, in your case. But these are like really open tunnels for anything. Now, the way we do it is by using CWDM technology. Every single signal here is converted to fiber and is converted to specific wavelength, specific color. Thanks to this, we can use really wide spectrum, and we can just send it through over one fiber. So we have multiple signals on one fiber. Then on the other end, we filter out the specific wavelengths, and thanks to that, we can divide this fiber spectrum into separate signals and separate protocols. The advantage of that is that people like Antony can use multiple different protocols on the same device. And yeah, next slide is just showing me and showing you really what we can do and how the system really works at Spiritland. So you've got one repeat 48 at stagebox. We cannot see it on this picture, but it's somewhere there. I believe I took the right picture, right?
That's right. It sits on the other side of that rack.
Right. So could you just explain to us how you connect things to the repeat 48?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the picture of this stage box here, we're essentially running three switch networks. They are all trunked together for NTP reasons, but we view them as three separate networks, really. So our top switch is our primary Dante, and that is passing over the fiber network passively. Would you say, Maciek? That goes straight through the fiber. So effectively the repeat 48 doesn't need to be on for us to get Dante primary network, and the same for the secondary. And those are running over the two physically separate core duo fibers. So we not only then have the redundancy on our audio network if we have a power failure on the BroaMan, but we also have the redundancy of a physical fiber failure for primary and secondary. Then the third switch in there, we just call our MISC switch. That's carrying everything else. So all the internet access points, if we want to put those out on stage, as well as VLANs with the AES67 network for Readle. At the moment, we keep our PTP V1 and which is the Dante, and V2, the AES67, totally separate. So our Readle frame has Dante cards in it, which then bridge that gap. In due course, as kind of this AES67 interoperability becomes nicer to play with, we will merge all of this together. But for now, that sits totally separately. Then at the bottom of this flight case, from left to right, you can see all of our MADIs. So it's coax, BNC in and out MADI 1, and then fiber in and out MADI 1. Now, those are both MADI 1 because in the truck end, we have 4 Focusrite D64Rs allocated on the BroaMan. It's all patchable, but as standard, that's how it's set up. So the idea is that if a band comes on stage and they want to give us 4 coax MADIs, they just plug into those MADIs 1 to 4, and the auto sensing in the Focusrite boxes will give us those 4 MADIs in the truck with SRCs. So we don't need to put SRCs on stage. That all happens at the truck end in the Focusrite boxes. Equally, if they want to give us 4 fiber MADIs off of a Soundcraft desk, also no problem. So that gives us effectively the transport of 8 MADIs, but in the truck end, we only have 4 boxes to receive those. Although, as you know, on this IP infrastructure, that's expandable easily. And then the last 4 coaxes on that box are 2 SDI inputs and 2 SDI outputs for our PTZ stage cameras, or sending feeds back if we do a recording session to picture, which we've done once before. And then obviously our SSL stage boxes, the SB32s, 24s, they just all patch into the primary and secondary switches.
And you've got more than just one. I just put one on this drawing, but you've got like 4,
yeah,
I guess, right?
We carry 4 on the truck as standard, but yeah.
So
but
we can see in this picture there are like 3 switches. One is Dante primary, Dante secondary, and then MISC. And this primary, secondary, you would have stage boxes, SSL stage boxes connecting directly to the switch with Cat5.
Yeah. And then on the MISC switch, we've got Bolero antennas. We've got a Wi-Fi access point linked to our PEP-Link bonding router in the truck, so that if you receive an email from the monitor guy on stage with the band, with the line list, you're connected to the truck's Wi-Fi, therefore you're connected to the truck's printer, so you can send the line list direct from the stage to the printer in the truck. And little things like that at festivals just keep things running a little smoother.
Just one thing from our point of view, when you talk MADI, there are, well, you saw on previous slide that there were some BNCs on the device. All of those ports are 3G SDI, but you can freely use them for MADI anytime. So actually, once you have them on panels on your stage box, you can use them for additional video feeds as well.
Yeah, and we
of course you would have to then change the patching in the truck end.
Yeah, we can do that at this end. We have a patch for that, and we did that on the Mobile Awards recently. In fact, I spoke to you from that gig, and we ended up putting video down those as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is quite nice idea of using MADI. So moving really. Otherwise, you would have to probably put Focusrite on another stage rack, right? And then maybe connect them to Dante. But you're moving all of that connectivity by running multiple MADI feeds, and Focusrites are on the truck. So
we've effectively cut down what would be a 4+U rack of MADI converters on stage. Traditionally, that would have been MADI converters plus SRCs, and they live safely in the truck on the UPS in here, and that cuts down our footprint on stage or venue.
Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, this is the truck end, and yeah, well, those MADI go to Focusrite. Dante goes to the SSL, then AS67 from the MISC switch. Do you have switches also on the truck end? I believe so, right?
Yeah, this is all of these here. So Michael just asked, these are SG550s. So I think you're asking because Readall, has a whitelist of switches it recommends, and these aren't PTP aware switches. So we have to be quite careful with the QoS and making sure that that's all working properly. But of course, if you put in a PTP aware switch, you then have problems with PTP V1 for Dante as well. So it's, we operate as a Dante domain, and we have some AES67, and the clocking works for that okay, and we clock from the Bolero at the stage end to make that work well.
Cool, great. And the video, it goes to some small Blackmagic router, right?
Yeah, so we've got, video wise, we've got a 40x40 smart hub. We have an Arja FS2 2-channel 16 audio channel, 2 video channel embedder and de-embedder. We've got an ATEM 1 12 channel vision mixer and 2 Arja Key Pros. So that gives us plenty of options for our basic video needs.
Okay. Yeah, let me just go through to the Q&A before you answer to Michał another question. But we will answer that live, because it's always more interesting when people are asking questions. Just to summarize, so you've been using this for a year, as far as I understand.
Yeah, just over a year. Yeah.
And you've been using it for every single gig. What can you say about our system?
I can say it's never let us down. It sits in the background. It makes rigging super easy, because we're rigging 2 fibers for absolutely everything instead of 12. It has full redundancy built in terms of power. We love it. It's perfect, and it's only 1U, which in a truck, when you're restricted, in space, that's important as well.
Did you ever calculate power consumption on this? Because this is also another thing that is quite well, unique for us. We've got it on the very, very low level.
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. Yeah. One more thing is that you still are within the warranty period. You've got like 4 more years of warranty, because we do give 5 years warranty. So yeah, but I don't expect anything to happen. Okay, we can move now to Q&A. We've got some questions. So another question is from Michał. Yeah, with the antennas, could you answer that?
The last gig we ran 6 antennas just off the max power Cisco PoE on the stage end, and we didn't have any issues with that. We allocated 1 antenna to be the clock priority manually, so they didn't move around. But that's been okay. The only time we had an issue is when our antenna at the truck end was the master, and we had a lot of antennas on stage, and that we got, I'd say we got like a ½ second to 1 second dropout every 30 minutes or so. But that went away once we changed the master to be on stage.
Okay. Next question. What is your engine for the clock?
So that has changed in the last 3 months. When we built the truck, we had a NanoSyncs HD, which was then feeding the Studio Tech Master Clock 5401. So the 5401 Studio Tech box is our PTP master for everything, 1 and 2. But we've taken out the NanoSyncs and replaced that with a Courtyard SPG, which gives us a bit more flexibility, gives us GPS lock clock, gives us time code which is locked to clock, which previously we didn't have, and most importantly, it gives us the ability to generate multiple different time code rates, which sounds like something you might not ever need, except that when we work with Melody VR, we run the clock in here at 25 frames a second, standard UK time code, but we give them 29.97 drop. And so it will generate both of those. So that's a recent change.
Just from our point of view, let me add to that. We don't care about the clock repeat 48 device. Every single protocol that you run through our box can be completely independent, and we behave more like a cable rather than active device where you have to clock all digital signals. You can run all of your signals completely independently. Okay, whoa, we've got more questions. So what is sample rate? 96K, you've mentioned it.
Well, we're running a 48K for the majority of the time. but it works fine at 96. We just have a Dante controller preset that just changes all the devices over to 96 and then a different desk show file.
Okay. Good question from Andre. Do you have any issues when using CWDM system in terms of cable clean state? That's a good question. What cables do you use?
We're using single mode optical con duos, the armored ones, which are particularly heavy on a 300-meter drum. And we've only cleaned those twice in the year. We've never had any problems with that.
Okay, and is your environment like really dusty or not necessarily?
It's dusty where the truck lives at the farm, and obviously it goes out onto muddy sites. But we try and keep the connectors as clean as possible, and where they go into the truck is relatively clean as well. I've had experience of HMA expanded beam for Digico, which obviously is more tolerant, but the issues with that are the loss between joins. So with this system, we have the option to go through house infrastructure without having to count how many hops we're doing, unlike HMA.
Right, and also you can easily probably use LC cable. What is the maximum distance you've been using for the stage box?
We did one show where we ran 450, so we ran the 300s and the 150s out, and that was totally fine. And we've done a couple on house infrastructures, but that's hard to know.
And it's single mode, right?
Yes. So when we worked for the BBC, all of their trucks were multi-mode, and we made the choice to use single mode so that we were more compatible with TV companies. So we worked on the Ball and Bow show at the O2 Arena, and we actually jumped on TV fibers for that instead of running our own, okay, which meant a quicker D-rig.
Yeah. Another question. Do you have plans to evaluate it, to grow functionality and so on? To add more BroaMan boxes? This is added from me.
Yeah, not at the moment. I mean, our custom 48 is obviously fully populated, but because of the IP nature of the truck, our expandability in this sense mainly comes on the IP front. We are looking at a second vehicle, or we were nearly ready to start building that second vehicle when this all hit. So that's been put on pause for now, but that will carry the same system.
Okay.
That tells you that we're happy.
Cool. Well, you could still use probably Route 66 or some other boxes, but we will discuss that. Okay, have you considered using a festival box to multiplex all the signals, hence moving the switches on stage?
Yes, and I discussed that was what I originally thought we would put in, was the festival system of yours, I think, and we ended up with this instead because of our mix and match requirements.
Yeah, just to give you a bit of answer to that, Festival Box is a device from company Optocore. Optocore is sister company of BroaMan. And Festival Box, we've got pretty standard products with Festival Box, like it's in multi-mode, and then you've got only SFPs, no BNCs. Repeat 48 is something more flexible than the Festival Box, and that's the main difference. But the way it works, it's pretty much the same. So it uses CWDM, and yeah. Bending issues from Andre. Bending, I assume that's the question for the cable, and if the cable bends, if you have any issues.
Yeah, we haven't had any issues. We're quite careful to keep a fair amount of radius on all of these, both the fibers and well, all the cables, to be honest. And it's the same at the stage box end. We leave enough room to make sure that's not an issue.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like we have no more questions. Is there anyone else? We can still leave like 2 minutes for questions. I'm really happy that those questions arrived because it makes us more like how to call it, more entertaining. Anyway, thank you, Antony, for your time. We've managed to do everything pretty much in half hour. Oh, we've got one more from Felipe. Nice to see you. Hope you're safe and well. We are safe, I guess. Are you safe, Antony?
We are. I've got both doors shut. Once they open, I'll put my mask back on.
Right. Good. Yeah, let's hope that this coming year will be better. Could it be better for you than the last year?
Yeah, we could always be busier. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I wish you're busier, and yeah, thank you once again for that. Thank you for your time. Thank you everybody for attending, and yeah, there will be a short survey once we end. So if you can fill it in, that would be really great. Have a nice day. Have a great evening. Because I can see that we have some guys from Asia. So yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, well, if you happen to have more questions to Antony, I'm happy to forward them, and I'm sure Antony will be fine with answering.
Absolutely.
Cool. So yeah, thank you. I think that's time to end the webinar. And yeah, go back to your daily routine, and you go back to your whatever you've been doing, to your preps, right?
That's it. Yeah. Line check now.
Okay. Enjoy.
Cheers, Maciek. Thank you.